and welcome back to the Health One podcast. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about a very highly requested topic, which is how I became a health coach / nutritionist, how I set up my own business, life being self-employed, my career journey to date, going on a very different path to the norm. I suppose I didn't go straight from school to becoming a nutritionist or knowing a health coach even existed as a job. So it's a question I get on my question boxes very often, and because of that I'm just going to create a podcast episode because I suppose I can give more value here, I can go in more depth, and then I am also not repeating myself every week and people have a resource to have a look at. I don't mind repeating myself, but I do think that it's just going to be easier so people can have but just get to know my background from start to finish and hopefully find some inspiration from this. I think when you are starting off any sort of business or going out on your own self-employed, it's very fucking scary. I was very lucky that I had some mentors along the way. Not official mentors, but people that I would consider mentors, people that were just friends really helping me out. In particular, my friend Saz. I've already given her a shout out, but she deserves another one. And I'll be bringing her on the podcast as well. But I think people are afraid to make that jump because it might not be the norm in society. And I think if you're gathering anything from my podcast so far is that I'm really trying to help people see outside the box, really try to do outside what's considered normal and really follow what feels authentic to you, what feels aligned for you, and maybe kind of lean into what your intuition says that's right for you. Okay, so I would have touched on really my career to date in one of my previous podcast episodes. I think it was the introduction episode, episode 1. But essentially, I would not have come out of college knowing I would end up where I am today. My job title did not exist, and I kind of have, I suppose, a dynamic job title because I do think it's evolving. I don't really think that I don't really adhere to labels because I am the health one at the end of the day. And I think health is holistic. Health is it's everything. Health is your relationships, it is stress, it is financial worries, it is your digestion, your hormones, your mental health, your exercise, your sleep, your nutrient status, everything. It's all connected. So for me as a health coach is something that is thrown around quite a lot. So I even feel like I do think that I have a lot of the requirements or the qualifications that would consider someone as a health coach. I have seen health coaches and I have seen what is on a health coach course, and it's not sufficient in my eyes essentially. So I actually kind of made my job title up. So just because of my vision, I originally started off as a nutritionist, obviously, but because of my further development, because of my study and my training, because of how I work with clients on everything holistically, nutritionist didn't quite fit the match. And I had a lot of clients saying to me, your service that you offer people, how you change your clients' lives is not just limited to nutrition. So that's where I decided, okay, well, let's expand it. So that's really what it is. It's an expansion. It's really something that I resonate with more, and it's really something that's continuing to evolve, like I said, and I don't know where it's going to go, and I'm okay with that. I think in society we really like labels. We really like to feel comforted in knowing that we are a certain job title, that there is some sort of elevation of promotions and a way that you can progress quite clearly. And I was in that world. I was in the corporate world for a long time, and I very much I kind of climbed the career ladder. I changed into different departments of my industry and stuff like that, and it just never fulfilled me. It never felt right for me. So I could see pretty quickly that this wasn't the career for me. So I would have done my science degree in college, and I hated it. So even if I rewind right back to school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Like I said, the job that I am doing right now did not exist. Being self-employed was something so far out of reach, or so far out of even a consideration for me, that I would have never thought that I'd end up where I am today. So I would have done my leaving certificate. So the end of your school year is basically, you do, for anyone who's not Irish, you would have done a set of exams, and I, up until the very last point where you had to decide what you wanted to do in college or uni, I was kind of 50-50 split between the business world, kind of like accounting, maths, because it was something I was kind of good at, still not fully good at it. Like I remember one of my teachers for maths kept telling me that I'm going to fail maths, I'm going to fail, because I had been failing my tests all along. And I, obviously topic for another day, but I decided that I was going to prove her wrong, and I passed maths in the end, but I still wasn't at the level that be considered you'd go on to do it in college or be your profession, say. So I was split between that and just this nudge that I kind of liked biology, but I had never done science up until my last 3 years. I had never really looked into it, and I didn't like physics, I didn't like chemistry, I only liked biology. But I didn't like how it was taught in schools. That's a really important point, because I think when I explore physics now, and I explore energies, and I explore how atoms work, and all of these different topics that I kind of talk about in my podcast, even chemistry, that's fascinating to me. But the way it's taught in schools, or the topics that we're limited to exploring, you literally could have set me to sleep, and it literally drained the life out of me. So like I even failed physics in college, but I never let it stop me. I failed engineering as well, because part of my course was to do engineering, basically geared towards. So yeah, that's another thing as well. In college, you're not really learning what you want to learn. Obviously, we can't sit down and ask everyone what they want to learn, and we need to make concrete courses. I completely understand that. But there wasn't really a course that resonated with me at the time. It was like 50-50 of all of them. So I went into this one course that was like half biology, half things that I was interested in, genetics, immunology, etc. And then the other half was engineering, geared towards industry, making, manufacturing drugs, etc. So I was just going with what felt right for me, even though it didn't feel fully right. And that was, I suppose, my intuition at the time. Even though a lot of people told me I should be going towards business and should be going towards maths, because that's what I was good at, or that's what I had done all along. So as always, not doing things going against the grain, going against what people think is the best thing for me, because at the end of the day, you know what's best for you. So that was college. Like I said, I had to repeat a year. It took me 5 years to get my degree, but we got there in the end. Then I worked in the hospital along the way, which I've already explained, and I really thought that I was going to go on to do medicine, because I really loved biology. I really loved about the human body. Then I went on to work in the industry, and I decided that I wanted to do a nutrition certificate, because that's what I wanted to further develop just for myself. It was never I wanted to be a nutritionist. It was never I saw myself doing that at all. I had set up the blog at this time, and it wasn't something I took seriously. It was literally just somewhere I could vent. It was just something that I felt I kind of wanted to do. I always felt like this inner urge that I want to change in the world, and that's really what's gotten me where I am today. I never started off knowing what I was going to be doing, knowing what job I'd end up, knowing even my niche for my nutrition and health coaching services. It was always just, what change do I want to see in the world, and I held on to that. And I'll go into that a little bit more, because I think that's really important when you're just starting off in this industry, in nutrition and health, that you feel you need to have your thing. You feel that you also probably feel like you need to do everything, and you don't. But I did that nutrition course. It even took me ages to do that as well. I extended that. I also failed that. And oh my God, how mean I was to myself, because I had started to, when I extended it, I kind of put it off because of personal reasons. And I was like, I don't even think I need this. I'm not going to do anything with it. I kind of learned what I needed to learn. I don't really need to pass the exam. Then something hit me, would have went through a relationship breakup, would have had a change of circumstances, and I just kind of started to feel like this is something I wanted to do. So decided to take it seriously, do my exams, do them during COVID while working full time, fucked in the head, and I failed one exam. And oh my God, how mean I was to myself is not okay. I put myself down so much. I had so much shame about it. I didn't want to tell anyone, because I had attached so much of my worth to being a nutritionist and to kind of making this my job, because I had set up the Instagram page in the meantime. Who am I to promote this information if I can't even pass one of my exams? And obviously I worked through that, and I realized that it wasn't actually a lack of knowledge on my part or a lack of my abilities or capabilities. It was really just the way that was tested was to pass that exam, you had to basically meet the way that they wanted you to analyze the situation of the client. And looking back afterwards, I realized that I don't really align with a lot of the stuff that they teach on the course, purely because it's not what I'm passionate about, or because I can see the bigger picture, or because from my own personal experiences, some things aren't as black or white or as simple as they kind of made it out to be. And yeah, so that would have got me up to completing my course. And I think literally a week later, I would have put on Instagram that I was now taking on clients. Thank you to my friend Sarah, because I wanted to have like another 3 months or so of building the business, of figuring out what I was going to do, of building resources for clients, of trying to get to the place I thought my business needed to be before I started. Okay, you do not need to have all of the things before you start. You do not need to have fancy software. You do not need to have a website. You do not need to have client resources coming out of your ears. Okay, you don't need to have all of the things. You can build that as you grow. Okay, you can develop your own skills as you go, and you can expand on your business and what you offer your client as you grow. So I would have started off offering my client services at a very, very low price per month. Okay, partly because of imposter syndrome, to be honest, which I'll talk about, but also because I felt more comfortable if I had started off at a low entry point for pricing for coaching, and that would have helped me then build up my practical knowledge as well as my theoretical knowledge. Okay, so part of imposter syndrome and not wanting to start was that I felt I didn't know enough yet, and who am I to offer this coaching, and how are the people going to think of me if I don't know what the answer to the question is. But you don't need to know everything, okay? And it's like learning a new skill. It's like if you start any other job, you don't need to know everything. But I think, obviously I can only speak from a young person's perspective, but I think there's a lot of pressure on us these days, and a lot of that's a pressure on ourselves, okay? No one expects anyone to go into a job for the first time knowing everything. Even if you're doing a very similar job in a different company and you moved across, there's different dynamics at play. There's different relationships at play. There's different ways of communicating. There's different ways of doing your technical skills, okay? There's different theory. There's also a lot to be said from learning by experience, okay? Everyone is a different learner, and that's something that I really, really promote along the way. That I really have learned along the way, that I advocate for, okay? You will learn so much by practicing with your clients. And if you even need to start your coaching offering it for free, go for it. Like, if that's going to make you feel more comfortable, do it. But don't undervalue yourself, okay? You don't need to get to a certain point to value yourself. That's a massive thing, okay? It's funny because we attach so much of our worth to a successful business or to our job title or whatever, but then we undervalue ourselves. It's crazy. Like, make it make sense. But yeah, so my jobs were working in, even though I had a science degree, I worked in the training department of the company I was working in, which was kind of unheard of because I had the science degree that you actually work on the floor manufacturing the drug or working in the labs or whatever. But weirdly, I got offered an e-learning job coming out of college, which is obviously stood to me now with kind of creativity, with making courses, teaching people. Then I kind of was promoted and progressed in that role and would have been a training specialist, which obviously has stood to me with educational content, coaching my clients, building content, etc. So the universe had a weird way of putting me in that job so that I can get to where I am today, which you would have looked at the time being like, that's a terrible start in your career. How's that going to look on your CV, etc. Okay, I just went with it. I just winged it, and it fucking worked out. The next jobs I would have got was to kind of, instead of like going with what felt right, going with what would have been something different, something enjoyable. I went with what looked good on my CV, what felt was the best progression for just looking good, being successful, say. And it wasn't until then in COVID and lockdown that I realised this is absolutely not for me. Miserable, had no purpose, didn't enjoy it at all. The people in work obviously was what kept me going for a long time in that industry because they're amazing, but it wasn't until that we're forced to work from home and I was removed from that environment around people that I realised, okay, the job is actually just the job now and I hate it. I can't do it. So COVID really, really helped me because I was able to work both jobs. And that's a big question I get from people is, when did you feel right to make the transition to go full time? I didn't. I never did. I didn't wait until it felt right. Okay. I literally felt like I was forced to leave my job. I felt so miserable, so low, couldn't concentrate, felt so out of alignment physically and mentally. My health was affected. Okay. So I decided to transition my Instagram, which is what I'll say to people, is before you start a business, why not start an Instagram page? Like literally there is Instagram pages for everything these days. There's even podcasts, there's YouTubes. Like we've so much access to content these days, and I feel it's much more normalized than when I did it. I had such a like, who the fuck do I think I am? Starting a blog, am I a blogger? Like starting an Instagram page? I didn't even start my Instagram page until a year and a half after the blog, and it wasn't consistent with any of it. I really didn't. Anytime I was doing it, it was always out of, like, anything I posted was always with fear that, like, people were going to judge me, what people were going to think of me. And at the end of the day, that shouldn't matter. If you have a vision or even just a nudge for your next step, you should hold on to that and you should do that for yourself. You should be authentic in yourself, not give a fuck what anyone else thinks, not hold yourself back due to what everyone else thinks, because people are not always going to support you, okay? Not everyone has supported me along my journey. Even when making that transition and quitting my job, people told me I was crazy. People were like, are you mad? You're leaving a job that pays for your health insurance, has bonuses, is a consistent salary, you've just gotten promoted. We're in the middle of COVID. We might have a recession coming on our hands. You have no evidence of making this work. You don't even have any clients. I had fuck all clients when I made the decision to quit. There's just so many things like going against me logically, but intuitively, in my heart, in my soul, in my self-belief, I just felt that this was right for me. And I say self-belief lightly. I didn't fully believe in myself at all. I just, like I said, I felt forced out of that other job. I felt like I had no other choice. And I even tried to move out of that job. I was like, okay, do you know what? I don't make enough money from my clients at all. So I'm going to try and get another full-time job that feels more in alignment with me. So it was like a wellness specialist or something like that I was like, that's in my industry. I'll learn stuff from that. I applied for a few different things like that. And I matched my CV side by side. Top tip for anyone, if you're ever applying for jobs, look at the job description and make sure your CV aligns directly with that. And that just looks like a perfect match. But anyways, matched it side by side, was really good at getting interviews up until that point. I got nothing, not a thing. And I was like, okay, this is the universe telling me now, you just need to quit your job and go for it. So I was like, okay, I'll commit to September. This was like the June, say. And I was like, I'll start to hand in my notice. I remember expressing to a manager at the time that I was just unhappy. And then it was kind of like, okay, maybe we'll try do part-time, which wasn't really an option. And all these kind of things. I was still holding myself back from fear, still not actually wanting to make that jump. So I never fully felt ready. I really didn't. And then it was just got to a point where I was like, actually, no, I'm just done. I'm just going to go for it. I had savings up until that point, obviously working 2 jobs during COVID, not going out, not doing much. I was really, really lucky. I'm really blessed. But I did make sacrifices as well. I did stay in on weekends. I went to social events in and out of the lockdowns and stuff, of course, that were people were drinking, people were enjoying themselves, and I chose not to. Even I went away for a weekend and I decided to not drink one of the nights and get up early on a Saturday morning and work. So you do need to grind a little bit. I don't like using the word hustle. I think that's very in the masculine. I feel like it's very toxic as well. And I would have definitely got stuck into that mindset at the start when I was kind of following people whose businesses I wanted to kind of get inspiration for, or who I aligned with and saw that they were doing something similar to what I wanted to do, or I was trying to model aspects of their coaching with another person's, and just really learned a lot from them in terms of business, work ethic, and I suppose obviously theoretical knowledge with nutrition and stuff like that. So that would have been me working the 2 jobs, hustle, sacrifice, not looking after my mental health, not looking after my physical health, working long hours, working overtime. And I had learned this lesson before. Like, I had learned this lesson like a good few times in my life, and it was just like, when the fuck am I going to learn? So I handed my notice in the July, officially quit in the September. For the months following, October, November, I was fucked. Burnout hit me hard, okay, emotional, physical, mental, hit me hard, and I really couldn't get started. I couldn't get into it. I felt really shit about myself because I was like, I have just done the thing that I've waited so long to do. I should be really happy. I should be really grateful. Why can I not get myself to speak? Why can I not get myself to create content? Why am I not enjoying my coaching? So there was a lot of guilt there for me at the start. There was a lot of not honouring what was shown up for me, but then also possibly making that decision very, very quickly. If I had have prolonged that, maybe I wouldn't have had to hustle so much or save so much or whatever, and I would have had a bit of a nicer transition. I would have actually embodied my message and looked after my health. So you could do it that way, but you could also play it a little bit longer term and do it in more of a structured plan where you give yourself 6 months or you give yourself a year or whatever it is that makes you feel comfortable, that also keeps you motivated and keeps you on track, and it's not too long that you lose hope or you lose sight of what's important, but you look after yourself at the same time. It doesn't need to be done in the way that I did it. So one of the questions that I got was, did you have any business experience or background when setting up your business? No. Not at all. The extent of my business knowledge would have been doing it up to my leaving certificate, which would have been talking about the small claims court and profit and loss accounts. Like literally that's what it was. So I absolutely didn't. I am the type of person that I have been probably subconsciously thinking about this stuff for a long time. I don't, even though I made a jump decision and quit my job within the space of 3 months or 2 months or whatever it was, I had been looking at this for probably 2 years because it was something I wanted to do, but I felt it was so far out of reach. So to make myself feel a little bit more comfortable, to explore whether it was actually a viable option for me, just out of interest, maybe out of, again, me being very analytical, very inquisitive, kind of science mindset, I really did that research or followed certain people, listened to certain podcasts about business, about how people structure their coaching, about how people, what mistakes they have learned that I can learn from and not make myself. And that's what really stood to me. And maybe it's natural abilities alongside that I am able to look at all aspects of business, and maybe I am just kind of lucky in that mindset where I'm able to understand that you need to be marketing yourself, you need to be working on the client-based business. So mine's very much focused on my clients, that I'm focused on the long term, the bigger picture. I'm holding on to my vision of what change I want to create in the world. Which means that I'm not looking for instant success, okay? That's the difficult thing when you're starting off. When you're making fuck all money, when you've got very little clients, it can seem very easy to take on all the clients and really work with people that are not in alignment with you, okay? And that's okay if you want to do that. There's nothing against that. I definitely had 1 or 2 clients that were not in alignment with me, or were not what I'm passionate about, or not where my niche or my expertise were, and I definitely learned from them. They definitely benefited from me. But for me to, I suppose, hold on to what I want to do, which is what my business is based on, is my passion. Like I said, that change that I want to see in the world, what I want to create, how I want to help people. My 3 niche areas is obviously disordered eating, relationship with food, and relationship with your body. Good health, in particular IBS or any sort of digestive issues, hormonal issues such as PCOS, PMS, endometriosis, etc., fertility. So for me, I really hold the vision of how I can support that type of client. I look for what's known as your ideal client, and I show up that way on social media to really make sure that my content aligns with that. So one of the questions I got was, how did I get my first client? I have been making content and showing up to support that type of client through my Instagram already. So people related to me, and they could see the type of content that I have given for free so far. So obviously they wanted to, they aligned with what I had to offer, so they wanted to invest in that little bit further, invest in themselves and work with me. So another aspect that I'm really proud of is being authentic, okay? When you're starting off as well, it's really easy to go at what everyone else does. It's really easy to, like I said, I was looking at other coaches, I was looking at other business owners and seeing what they were doing, other nutritionists, other coaches, seeing what they were doing with their messages, what information they were putting up, what kind of posts they were putting up, how they were showing up online. And I decided that yes, I can take some inspiration from them, but at the end of the day, I wanted to stay true to me and my message. I also wanted to not, I think being in the corporate world, I saw that people were very, and there's nothing wrong with this, but people put on a mask, okay? People show up in a professional way. I couldn't fucking do it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't deal with the fact that we had to dress a certain way. I couldn't deal with the fact that we had to talk in a professional way. I couldn't deal with the fact that when I cursed quite a lot, that some people, like a lot of people didn't care, but some people did care. And you have to say things a certain way. You have to work with office politics and all this kind of shit. That just does not vibe with me. That does not vibe with me at all. I like to see, even though it's a professional business at the end of the day, I want people to feel comfortable. Having experienced mental health issues before, understanding a lot of what my clients will be going through, I don't want there to be any sort of barrier between me and them. I don't want them to feel like they have to show up a certain way. I like it to be an authentic space so they can feel that they can be authentic as well. They can be vulnerable. They can share what's actually going on in their mind. And that's something that I'm really proud of, is that I show up online regardless of what other people are going to think of me. And that all of those factors can make it more difficult for you to progress or for you to kind of reach success quicker. But having learned a lot from business and from other people, if you can mold your business or show up in that way, create your content in that way, your offers in that way, and your coaching services in that way, you will go further. Okay, and it's about thinking of the long game. It's about holding your vision and thinking of the long term, not thinking of overnight success. Yes, it's going to be very difficult at the start, but really thinking about what it is you want to give value to people for. Okay, and what it is, like, maybe everything that I'm saying now doesn't align with you, and you like to show up professionally, you like to be a certain way, you don't like to be as personable. That's okay. But it's really important that you do what feels right for you. You don't feel the need to copy other people. And like I said, you can do it at the start. If you really don't know what you're doing, you can just go with the flow and you can try out different things, because with trying things, you will learn what works and what doesn't work. So you don't also need to know your niche. That's something that I don't think people really double down on niches when I was starting coaching, that I had seen anyways. So a niche is like really a specific area that you can work on a specific type of clientele. Like I said, I've got 3. A lot of people stick to the 1, and it can be easier for your content then as well, and for how you are kind of showing up for your clients. If you are showing up on social media, if you are actually talking to the one person, because they will resonate and relate a bit more. Where some people might hear me talk about digestion, and if they have no digestive issues, they might switch off, and that's okay. Like I said, at the end of the day, it's the messages I want to spread, and the areas I want to touch on and help people work through, help people heal, and help that kind of client with those type of issues. Some more questions. By the way, I'm loving the questions, because I feel like we're all having the chats now. I really love this like engaged aspect of the podcast. The last podcast that I did, or the last season that I did, was really just me going solo and really getting my messages out, and probably a little bit of word vomit, to be honest, because I had a lot of things I wanted to share that I felt a little bit vulnerable or I'd never spoken about very openly before. But now I feel like I am ready to start more conversations, like an actual conversation is with 2 people as well. So another question is, how long was it before you built up your business and went traveling after you graduated? I didn't go traveling until 9 or 10 months after I had set up my business, and like I explained before, I graduated college and then went into, like, I wasn't doing anything to do with my work, so I didn't do the traditional route. So it wasn't like I finished college, did a 1-year plan. Well, I actually did do a 1-year plan, but it turned out to be very different. But I essentially waited until, again, I didn't really do it when the time was right. I just decided that I couldn't do it anymore and moved to Portugal and figured it out from there. I still had my savings, like I said. So like, this is a big thing. Like, if you don't feel comfortable plan it and save money until you do. If you're really like riddled with fear, I guess I'm a person that likes to take risks, and I'm a person that trusts and has that kind of belief that things will work out, that I will find a way to make things work. And even if sometimes I have those doubts, even if sometimes I feel like my business is failing, or I feel like things aren't working out how they're meant to, I still always know deep down that things will work out how they're meant to. Even if that in that moment doesn't feel so good to me, I know that things will be able to move forward. I will find a way to do it. The universe will support me. My brain will come up with a creative solution, etc., etc. Another question is, biggest belief, if any, you had to let go of and work through that led you to do what you love. I don't really know a belief. Well, yeah, I had imposter syndrome really fucking bad, like really bad. So for me, I had to move through imposter syndrome, and what I can share with people is we're all winging it. We're all winging it. We're all figuring our shit out as we go. You might look at me, if you are just starting out or you haven't even started studying yet, and think, wow, she is miles away from me. Okay, I'm not. I'm really not. I look at people that inspire me, or people whose businesses I feel like I can take inspiration from, like I said, or places I want to get to, models and systems and stuff that I want to integrate into my business. But I know that they're also winging it to a certain degree, and the more you get comfortable with that is the more you actually learn along the way. You learn through experience, and you learn through failure, okay? You literally learn through failure. So you have to be really fucking humbled. You have to do some ego work. You really have to be okay with getting things wrong. And this is really important. So you're not attaching so much of your worth, like I said, to your job title or to your business. Be okay if it fails. Like you think about all these stories about like Oprah and Steve Jobs and all these kind of people. They failed a lot. They were rejected a lot, but they still made it. They held on to the vision of success and what that meant to them. They held on to their belief in themselves. They kept trying. They didn't stop at the first hurdle, okay? I have had mistakes. I have had failures, but I like to reframe them. It might take me a few minutes to reframe them, or a few weeks, but I still reframe them as things I can learn from, okay? And that's something that I have been really humbled in recently, is that like January for me, mental busy. This January was my most successful few months yet, right up until March. Then it was kind of averaged off. We're into the summer, people's first summer for COVID. People don't really want to sign up for coaching. Prices of everything has gone up. So for me, temporarily, I was like, my business is failing. I'm losing my clients, blah, 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 blah. It's just a phase. We're going to go through seasons, especially with coaching. People are going to go through phases of their life. Like, think about yourself. You don't necessarily want to be working at Christmas time. You don't necessarily want to be working at summer. I actually don't mind it, because it's obviously my job. It's what I really enjoy. I have set up my business intentionally so that I enjoy every day. I'm not doing the traditional 9 to 5. I dip in and out of work when I like to. Some periods of time I will push on and I will make myself work longer hours, and some periods of time I will work a lot less, and that's okay. I'm learning to go with the flow. I am learning to release any expectations on myself, any judgment on myself, attaching any negative meanings about myself and how my business is doing, okay? So your imposter syndrome might tell you that that person's better than you, that you can't talk about this topic because you haven't read all of the theory. People don't know what's in your head, okay? You might talk about a certain topic and feel you don't have all the information, but the person on the receiving end might not even have heard of that topic. So for you to show up online, you're still giving value to them. You don't have to show up in a certain way. You don't have to be perfect at it. You don't have to know every single aspect of it. And you just learn through experience and through action. So question, what do you find most rewarding about what you do? The most rewarding thing for me is the transformation. Okay, for my clients, that they go from being in survival mode or feeling like they're barely surviving to actually thriving, to actually feeling inner peace, actually feeling like they can manage their health. It's not so complicated, being free from limiting beliefs and being able to feel like they are in the driver's seat of their life. That for me is like when it's like a light bulb moment or an epiphany that majority of them have, that they realize, wow, this whole time I was really putting off feeling good on my body because I was criticizing how my body looked. Or this whole time I felt powerless because doctors told me I couldn't support my hormones or my digestion. There was nothing I could do. There was nothing wrong with me. And now I feel I've got these issues resolved, or I can manage them, and I know what to do when I'm met with difficult situations in life, because we'll always experience that. They understand the tools of how they can support themselves, and they feel empowered as fuck. If I could go back and give myself some tips, what would they be? So the big one that I said there was embrace failure, embrace learning. So through experience, releasing imposter syndrome, releasing knowing things, thinking things have to be a certain way, just figuring out as you go, just winging it a little bit. That's something that is really beneficial, and like I said, it will help you learn what's for you and learn what's not for you. Another aspect is to not take advice from people who have not gone to places that you want to go, or to people whose shoes you don't want to be in. So for me, a lot of the time I was asking people about advice of quitting my job or setting up a business or even starting an Instagram or whatever, and none of them have ever done that. Okay, so realistically I should have been talking to people in the industry, asking people for advice on that end, but I didn't. I asked people in my environment, obviously because I had friends, family whose opinion that I valued, and I wanted to feel their support. But not everyone's going to support you, and if they criticize or if they don't show the belief or the support that you wanted them to, just know that that doesn't mean it's not a good idea. Okay, just trust that maybe they have, that's so far of reach for them, all they can focus on is the negatives. They can just see how you are now and how your situation may be better than the risk that may come with starting a business or going out on your own or changing career. Another one I would say would be stop trying to do everything by yourself. It took me a long time to bring in help and support with a virtual assistant, and I think I'm the type of person that likes to do everything, but just because you like to do everything doesn't mean you need to. You can be someone who is good at a lot of things, but maybe you're missing out on the time you can add to really doubling down on what you're great at. Okay, so admin jobs, little things that you might think that don't take that much effort or energy from you, they take your time. Your time as someone who is a business owner or self-employed is valuable as fuck. Okay, so you need to get away from that per hour, like your hourly rate 9 to 5 salary kind of mindset, and more so value your time. Your time is your money. How you're spending your time, because you could be spending your time working on the business, you could also be spending your time working on your mental health, working on self-development, which will stand to you in your business, stand to your confidence, stand to your public speaking skills, etc., etc. So value your time and really move away from that typical mindset. And it's difficult to do at first. Like, I really tried to do 9 to 5 hours when I was in my business at first, but now I'm like, I have the flexibility to work whatever hours I want. If I want to log on in the morning and take the afternoon off, but then do more evening work, I can do that. If I want to take the morning off and do my evening work, if I want to work for 8 days straight and then take 9 days off, I can do that. I don't do that. That's the model that I have built up with being flexible. So don't make yourself feel guilty for taking off time, because I think what can happen is you can be very attached to the idea that if you don't work, you don't get money. But that's very toxic, and that can lead down a very, very slippery slope. The last one was, obviously as a health coach, I have to show up a certain way. I obviously promote I obviously show a lot of what I do on my Instagram. I show about my diet, my lifestyle, my fitness, my emotions. I share a lot of things from Morning Thoughts as well. So the question is, do you feel pressure to always be healthy? And this is there's a few things to unpack from that, okay? So what does healthy mean to you? So my version of healthy, and like I embody this truly, and because this is the message that I want to get to my clients. Healthy isn't eating clean like vegetables all the time, not enjoying life, not having a burger or chipper every so often, not going out and socializing every so often, not lying in or not missing a bit of sleep. Like, I'm not perfect. I'm absolutely not perfect. I call myself the Health Hun. My business is called the Health Hun, but I'm not perfect. I'm a human being just like you. I definitely would have gone down that road at the start, and I would have been like, who am I to call myself the Health Hun or be a nutritionist, and have phases where I don't really focus on my fibre, or my symptoms are out of control a little bit. And I have really only in the last few months moved out of that headspace, because how I show up on Instagram, I am my business at the end of the day. How I look, my habits, everything is gonna influence possibly how a client wants to work with me or not, or how people perceive my brand. But at the end of the day, I'm human. I really am. And I think having my acne come back, I was like, how can I talk about working through your PCOS if I've got acne? How can I talk about working through managing your IBS if I've got bloating? But I experience stress. I experience periods of emotions, of difficult relationships. I experience traveling that causes my bloating. I shift time zones, which affects my sleep. I am human. I'm going to experience the day-to-day struggles of life, and I'm going to have that impact my health. At the end of the day, I do have health conditions. But my version of healthy is not something that I feel pressure to do. It's just part of who I am. Okay? It's part of what I embody. I am embodying what health means to me. And that means not putting pressure on yourself. Releasing expectations and understanding that you're going to have periods, you're going to have to ride the wave of life, that sometimes you're going to be feeling at your best, sometimes you're not going to be feeling that good. And that's okay. But what's not okay is to put yourself down for that in the process and expect yourself to be this perfect person to show up on Instagram. And maybe TikTok, podcast, whatever. And maybe from time to time, you don't want to show up online, and that's okay. There's this pressure as well that we need to be constantly keeping up with the engagement of Instagram and the algorithms changing and blah blah blah. But you don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. If you don't feel fully aligned or fully able to create content that day, why do it? Why put yourself through that? There can be ways around it. You can look at planning ahead of time and stuff like that. There are a lot of strategies. You can kind of recycle content or whatever, but you don't need to do something that's going to make you feel worse. You need to protect your energy at the end of the day. Your energy is in alignment with your business, and people can see it as well. People can see the days that you're showing up and you're not so good, and there's no point pretending. There's no point not being authentic. And I suppose that's why I'm vulnerable online, that I let people know that I'm going through these struggles, because I am human at the end of the day. So yeah, I hope that helps. So last one is maybe not related, but how did you find your purpose and passion? So I think I've really touched on it throughout the whole podcast, is that I didn't go looking for my purpose and my passion. I was just forced out of what didn't feel in alignment for me. I just followed my intuition, my nudges of what I was interested in. So that's why I say to clients is like, have free time in your day. Have free time to go watch the waves, to journal, to sip a cup of tea, whatever. Because it's in those blank spaces, in those moments, we can be creative. We can think about what we actually want in life, rather than just trying to get through your to-do list or be productive on a day-to-day basis. So I would have spent some spare time reading, listening, looking at research, seeing what courses I could do, following certain people I found inspiration, and following intuitive nudges that has led me to where I am today. And my purpose, personally, I don't know if this is the way you find your purpose. I don't know if this works for everyone. And what I'll also say is your purpose can come from, your purpose doesn't have to be your work. I personally would not be able to work a job that wasn't fulfilling or I found purpose and meaning in it. That's just me. But some people's purpose is having a job that they don't mind. It's not really miserable. They're not really miserable. It's not really affecting their mental health, physical health, etc., etc., etc. But they're able to provide for their family, and their purpose is in their kids, or their purpose is in working their 9 to 5 so they can volunteer something or do something that lights their soul up, or connecting with people. Purpose doesn't have to be in your work. But for me, it was being brave enough to see something that was missing from the world and being the one to step up and do it. Now, obviously, there's a lot of people that are transitioning towards disordered eating, focusing on disordered eating, diet culture, hormones, digestion, exercise, everything holistically. We're seeing a massive shift towards that, which is amazing. But when I started, there was none of that. And I literally just felt like I was ranting. It's like, this is something we all need to listen up and do, but no one was doing it. And that's what started with the blog. It was literally just me giving out. It was just me, not giving out, but it was me articulating what needs to happen, what people need to wake up for, how people can support themselves, how people can change the systems, the narrative, etc., etc. And I just decided that that person was going to be me, because I was doing it for myself more than anything. So another thing that I really love is your mess is your message. I think that was Brian Keane. So basically, in your struggles, in your history, in your life experience, what you go through, you grow through, and you can then support others through that as well. So whether that is in a business setting, whether that is in a volunteering setting, whether that is just setting up something with your free time or supporting people in your family or friends, that's something that you can do that gives you purpose in life. So yeah, that's it for this episode. I hope you really found value in this. Lots of little nuggets. Obviously couldn't go into absolutely everything in detail. But I really hope this gives you inspiration to understand that like no one's perfect. You do not need to know everything before you start a business, before you make a career change. It is in action that you get confidence. It is in action that you learn, that you fail, that you grow basically at the end of the day. So yeah, I would love if you could subscribe to this episode, share it to anyone else that you think will get value from this. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't, and I always appreciate reading your reviews in the review section as well. Bye.